Okay, so let's get going. We've got a great guest today, somebody I know very well, Rich Wallace, who has bounced around the entire Boston ad community at Ingalls, Leonard Monahan. I worked with him at Mullen a million years ago, far too many I care to admit. And he's also at Ogilvy, but he's an Ideasicle expert. And this particular project is super interesting because he was on an Ideasicle X project. I'm going to share that with everybody, give you a little look inside because this is a great soup to nuts story, assuming that it will let me. Oh my God. Okay. So this is the typical Ideasicle X interface. And one of the ideas that got presented for Hallmark Health Care is this concept metaphors that Rich was the originator of, which actually helped in the motivation, I think, in the production phase, because he started the whole idea and he posted the original thought here. And note the AI image he used to start the idea off. And then Ernie and Rich kind of went back and forth on this with all kinds of different scripts and ideas with people in traps and I can't remember. Oh, in the hot seat. In the hot seat. She's looking very hot. I'll just leave it at that. And in the eye of a storm, here was another one. We didn't end up going with that one. We almost did this one, didn't we, Rich? The day just turned upside down was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is how the idea was born. And then what I did is took the raw stuff that was in the Ideasicle X idea stream and wrote up the concept and presented to the client along with a whole bunch of other concepts, as you can see over here. And again, you could see all these AI images that we used here. And what was interesting is, and I'll stop the share there. What was interesting is the client, Rich is going to talk more about this, but they didn't have a ton of money. And the client even suggested, say, your presentation was freaking awesome. All those images you guys created, because the whole thing was AI. Every single image and every single idea was AI generated just because you can, and it's pretty great. And he was so impressed with it. He's like, why don't you produce the campaign in AI? And then Rich was like off to the races. And I can tell you right now, Rich is one of the hardest working art directors I've ever worked with in my entire life. If anybody needs a hardworking art director, he's the guy, the one in that square over there. That's the second one that's bald. Okay, so over to you, Rich. Please
The
share
second
with
bald
us.
guy.
Yeah, share with us how you made this happen.
Oh boy. Uh, cool. Well, thanks for that. So yeah, this was a real exciting project. The client wanted to do something that was funny, so that's what we were challenged with. Everybody can see the screen, right? So they wanted something funny, something that wasn't conventional, something that didn't feel like traditional B2B advertising, and something that didn't just feel like kind of boring healthcare stuff or whatever, or healthcare that they'd seen before. They wanted something that stood out. So we came up with this idea, and among with several other ideas. I can't remember. How many were there in total? You're muted.
I think it was 23 or 4. We
It's
ended up
crazy.
presenting over 2 rounds in
Yeah, it's
2 weeks.
crazy. So it was between this and a couple other ideas, and then they ended up loving this one. So Will reached it. Ultimately, there were four of us on it: Claudia, Baldacci, Ernie, and myself. And in the end, I think because it was my idea and Ernie was kind of weighing in a lot, he got involved with it as well. So the two of us were going to execute this campaign, and it's the first one that Ideasicle has executed. So with that said, great, good news. We sold a campaign. This was the campaign that we had presented, and then after that, Will told us, well, bad news. We only have $1. So we had a little bit more than $1, but the truth is, like, when you start looking at these spots and the way that they're originally scripted and written, were it was going to be somebody sitting in their office in a metaphor situation and somebody else walks in. So the upper right hand one somebody walks in and finds a woman in a pickle, and it's a conversation between the two of them in a pickle. Somebody walks in. So every scenario was that, a coworker coming in, and then you could do some heavy lifting with the dialogue back and forth. But when we started looking into this, I reached out to production people, producers that I knew. I reached out to some directors, and then reached out to some photographers. In the end, our budget was so small, and we said, okay, well, what if we did 3 of these? And even if you do 3 of these, probably the right way to do it is to do the TV shoot, do all the CG, you pull your stills from the CG after everything's done, and then from that you build your assets that would become your static, your GIFs, your things with motion, and then also your 30-second videos that they wanted. And then once I started going down that route, talking to photographers, talking to everybody, I mean, even if you try to maximize things and you go in and you say, okay, here are 3 offices within this one environment, they all look vastly different. We're going to style them. We're going to art direct them. All of a sudden, that on its own gets very expensive. You know, I think our budget was $150,000. So in my head, without like really thinking about it, I think each spot would probably be $250 per spot to do. And we didn't have that. So what we decided to do was we thought about taking stills and then animating the stills like with Runway or different tools like that. And I don't know if Matt, you play with this. Jen, is it Jennifer or Jen? Jen. Okay. Jen. So AI, the way it works is AI is amazing and it does things so fast. I mean, first off, it doesn't get things right the first time, but it's an amazing tool. The one thing is when you look at things a little bit closer, you start seeing AI artifacts. Like you'll see that her fingers might be broken. She might be holding 2 pens. In some cases, they don't always have the right amount of fingers and things like that. However, AI is getting so much smarter and better. So we knew that what we'd have to do is we'd have to create these images. So ultimately we did 3, The Rock in a Hard Place, Hair on Fire, and Stuck in a Pickle. And it wasn't like you'd type in one command or one prompt and you magically come out with your image. I mean, it takes hundreds basically to get the one that you like.
I would love to see the prompt that actually got you the thing that you want. I think in the end, you know, the valuable part of a lot of this is actually how do you get a person in a pickle suit? What does that prompt look like?
I did, you know, it's funny. I think I thought about putting that in here at one point, but I didn't. But essentially I think I was saying something like a person inside a life-size pickle suit in a healthcare facility, and then like you'd have to just keep like narrowing or broadening things. So this was kind of just a weird thing. Like even if you say inside a pickle suit, you still have this guy over here that's just resting on a pickle, or like everything's so different. You got this guy up here that has, I think, 3 belly buttons for some reason. It just does funny, weird things. But ultimately, so we narrowed down on liking this left-hand image over here, liking it for the room, for the environment, and for the pickle. And then we ended up really, so one of the things you do is you see this cabinet over here, how it's like all wonky and jetting out for some reason. And all these fluorescent lights aren't kind of like real fluorescent lights. So after that, we went in and we cleaned things up. You know, I think over here, I isolated this. So I was using Midjourney, and then I also used Photoshop. And in Photoshop, you can basically draw a rectangle around this and hit Command and then click your mouse or Enter, and you'll get a prompt within Photoshop. So then there you could say straighten up cabinet, and it will straighten up the cabinet. So you can do, when I was doing this, I kind of did a little bit of both. I took this guy that I liked here. He was this lower pickle. That's the guy. I liked his face. I liked how it was a little chubby, like very real, kind of squished in there. So he's the face that I used. And then this one on the right-hand side is the retouched one. So then we took all these assets that I had and brought them into retouching. And then another thing I did was when I was working with the retouches was, so then we retouched this. Then when we were going to go to the video, they told me that I should get a wide, medium, and tight. That's the way that we established that we needed this, so they could render them. So in some ways, they're kind of photoshopping a really tight head onto another body, and trying to just make it as high resolution as it could be. They also res things up in there. One thing that we tried doing too is we're going to start tight on the person's eyes and just pull out, because we didn't know what else we could do, like how we could control it or whatever. In the end, what we ended up doing is we ended up treating it like a traditional cut, because it was so boring. It was like I saw the first edit and I thought, holy smokes, what have we gotten ourselves into? And then I started thinking about it and thinking, well, what if we just cut and we have a tight shot, a wide shot, medium shot? So then you can just kind of cut between the three, even though all we have is kind of 3 pieces of footage. And in theory, it was probably only 10 seconds of each one. But so here's what we have. One thing I will say to you is, for some reason, the sound's coming out of my laptop. So
hey, before you play that, Rich,
yeah,
there's one other point that you kind of glossed over that I think you deserve credit for, and that is the original scripts were live action, as you were talking about. It was too expensive to do live action dialogue and all that kind of stuff, as you mentioned. So you and Ernie had to think of another way to accomplish these scripts so that we could produce them in AI.
yes.
And so that was a really important step. And that's when the tight on the eyes and pulling out and having the voiceover be the deliverer of the message, if you will. But I thought that was, that was
Yes.
a great solution.
That was actually the point that I was trying to make when I said we had 2 people and then I left the whole conversation and went somewhere else. So what that was supposed to be is we had to eliminate the second person and then do a narrator that kind of paints the picture for the whole situation. And then I used AI for that to record the voice. And I don't know if you've used that or not, but we have to, in some cases, one voice it might pick it up fine. Another voice you might have to spell things phonetically so it can kind of so it gets the words correct and the pronunciation and pauses and different things like that. You use ... Sometimes you use a period to stop things. Sometimes you use capitals and things like that. But here's the first one.
Meet Randall, nurse manager. As you can see, Randall is in a pickle. Nurse Amber's out on maternity leave. Jeff's dog had puppies, and if he asked Penny to help out again, she just might lose it. If only he had Hallmark Einstein 2's workforce intelligence and staffing technology, he could put together a pool of his own nurses. Unfortunately, Randall doesn't have Hallmark. Next time nurse burnout has you in a pickle, don't just outsource, insource.
So can I ask a question?
For sure.
Guy in a pickle,
Yep.
4,000 prompts. You got him right. There he is.
Yep.
There's your asset. It's you Photoshop. You got your asset. Then is this an animation?
So yeah. So then what we did was we brought it into Runway.
Yeah.
And then again, AI takes over and you feed it prompts and you get it to do things. And that's the thing with this is like then you're, as difficult as it is to get your prompts right for the image, it's equally as difficult to get your prompts right for moving footage. Or it was
I
a
saw
week ago.
the hands to the chest thing is perfect, and the suit goes like that. I wanted to know, is that a 50-to-1 ratio on getting
Well,
it right?
And you know what the problem is? We had so many different versions where it touched the pickle and it felt like plastic or paper or whatever.
Right.
So we had to kind of keep doing it until we found the right one. And yeah, there were so many like weird things about it. This one was one of the easier ones, I would say. After
Meet Randall, nurse manager. As you can see.
So the next one we did Hair on Fire. And this one was in our heads, we thought it was going to be simple. I mean, it wasn't too difficult to create the image. But when you go through, you get all different types of commands, obviously. And I didn't choose the most random ones, but you have this one up here that the woman is like juggling something, or it's just flying. through the air, or in some cases, the fire might have been behind them. But in any rate, so we ended up choosing this upper right-hand corner one. And like I said, we'd try to take the same image and make a wide and a tight. Look at, so this is basically just here, me giving a prompt of make this image wider, the lower one. Look at her face compared to the top one. It's not the same person. Like, it changes. And then another thing that would happen is when you animate things. So we did the pieces of footage, and in a way, you just think of it like we did a TV shoot, and now we got our footage, and now we have to edit it. So that's what we did. We used traditional media to edit it. So we use After Effects and Premiere and whatever to edit things together. But what AI does is sometimes if you say zoom out, everything will look perfect, and all of a sudden the person's lips might disappear for a frame or two and come back. It does weird, wonky things, but does a lot of amazing things. So ultimately, so here's the image. Here's another thing is like, so when I did my wide shot in the upper left-hand corner, you can see like what I said about AI, it does things so fast and amazing, but like the back of the monitor is not even finished. You know, it does weird, quirky things. And I don't know if more of this has been retouched. I don't think so. But that's one example. Again, the top wide one's a different woman. The bottom one is the one we use. And then here in the middle, the big image is the one that we retouched. So, and one of the reasons I did like a heavy vignette around it is because we knew that we were going to have copy that would have to overlay, and we were trying to help readability and all that stuff. The one thing is, so the image came out great. The one thing about this one is because we had the budget and we couldn't do tons of CG on it. And I was working with a partner in a production house that had amazing CG capabilities. It's just, you have to pay for it. So there are some things that are great and some things that like could be a little bit better, but ultimately, I guess the idea is there.
Meet Linda, nurse manager. As you can see, Linda's hair is on fire. Why? Well, because she's short-staffed and can't find a contract nurse that fits in. If only she had Hallmark Einstein 2's workforce intelligence and staffing technology, she could put together a pool of her own nurses. Sadly, Linda doesn't have Hallmark. Next time culture clash has your hair on fire, don't just outsource. Insource. Meet Linda, nurse manager.
And then the third concept that we had was between a rock and a hard place. This was the hardest image to generate because I don't know, AI just didn't understand it. Sometimes it understands things and sometimes it doesn't. So trying to get somebody actually pinned between a rock and a wall or something like that was very difficult. It felt like they had a giant boulder that was their pet rock or something like that. Ultimately, we ended up choosing this one in the lower right-hand corner. I photoshopped the heck out of this already, but it was essentially this. I added kind of 2 walls on it, and we shared this with the client, and the client said they loved it, except for one thing. This is supposed to be a nurse manager, and a nurse manager might not be in a cubicle. So we had to kind of go to work. So what I ended up doing was I just kept trying to regenerate it, and it wouldn't do it. I think this in the upper left-hand corner is what one of the images was. And then I kind of built it out and made it a cubicle like that in the lower right-hand corner. And then because I wanted them to really be pinned in, it felt like they needed to be sandwiched in. And no matter what, I just couldn't do it. So then I kind of abandoned ship, and I started doing a different execution. But then I came back and I built this office in the lower left-hand corner. And I felt like it was a good enough office. It was kind of cube-like. It was a box. And if we got rid of that window on the right-hand side and maybe moved the desk around and did a few things. So this was the plate. And then we kind of built this out of it, put a door in, put her right up against the wall, took the a new desk and sandwiched it in there.
The
And
fluorescent lights are just the best. They're so
yeah,
it's great.
yeah. So so we did this one, and then let's see.
Meet Andrea, Chief Nursing Officer. As you can see, Andrea is between a rock and a hard place. While Andrea needs 5 nurses stat, her budget is dry as a bone. If only she had Hallmark Einstein 2's workforce intelligence and staffing technology, she could put together a pool of her own nurses. Tragically, Andrea doesn't have Hallmark. Next time your staffing budget has you between a rock and a hard place, don't just outsource, insource.
The consistency is someone who's made over 1,000 of these. The consistency is amazing. I keep looking for, I cheated through so many of these trying to get somebody who kind of looks like somebody who was in the shot before. And the idea that you go like this, hands to the face, and like her eyeball didn't wind up, her finger didn't wind up in her head. I got a question. It may sound like a shitty question. It's a question. Were you tempted to like film look these at the end? Like they're super crisp. You know, because it is AI, and you can look at it, and it's not an uncanny valley, but it's got a AI. It's so the res is so high on these. Were you tempted to soften it or film look it or anything like that at the end?
I did. We added some grain to it, and then there was a point where it felt like we were just adding too much. But yeah, we did do some grain, and then I think we went too far, and we backed it off.
This is a radio.
Hold on.
So it looks amazing, but it's so crisp, it's so clean, and I was like, what I'm searching for is there a button? Have you found a button yet? You know, is there a
no? Well, I was working with editors too, so we could have kept doing it, although it wasn't because of the budget. We didn't do a color conform, and we didn't do all that extra stuff. We kind of did what we could do without pushing things too far. But obviously, yeah, you can do that, and you can add some grain, you could add some distress. I think we wanted it to feel a little bit modern, so it's not like we could put dust and scratches and things like that.
I just mean there's something between the and I have the same thing, is something between the faces are insane. When you look at especially the woman under the rock, the shading, she's perfect.
Yeah.
But like too perfect. She's like, it's a very interesting time, because that's what everybody, you go online, you look at everybody's stuff. The great stuff looks like this. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I've got to look now, and I want to know what the next, when you find the filter, send it to me, will you? The thing that we just premiere and let it run. Yeah, thank you.
It's amazing. Like somebody I'm working with, he says he's trying to encourage me to try to recreate these in Sora and see what we can do with it, just because how quickly AI is moving along. I included this just as this was like I just couldn't stop myself. So I took the TV scripts, and I thought, well, what if we did some radio with it that set up the whole idea? So I just did this, and then I didn't know what to do, but I wanted to show something.
This is a radio commercial.
So I created a radio out of the pickle for the pickle spot, out of the rock, and out of fire. So, and then I used AI for the voice.
So you can only listen, but if it was a TV commercial, this is a radio commercial, so you can only listen, but if it was a TV commercial, you would be able to see. You would see that Randall, a nurse manager, is having a bad day. You would see that he was in a pickle, not a metaphorical pickle, but in actual life-size pickle. Why is Randall in a pickle, you ask? Well, simple. It's because Nurse Amber is out on maternity leave. Jeff's dog had puppies, and if he asked Penny to help out again, she just might lose it. However, if Randall had Hallmark Einstein 2's workforce intelligence and staffing technology, he could put together a pool of his own nurses ready to jump in. Unfortunately, Randall doesn't have Hallmark. Oh, Randall, you little nincompoop, you. Next time nurse burnout has you in a pickle, don't just outsource, insource.
Right.
Fun.
So Rich, we've got just a few minutes left. I'd love to show some of those static ones, the websites and the print ads. Do you have those?
Yeah, hold on.
Hey Scott, welcome. Sorry, sorry you haven't caught the beginning of this, but it will be on YouTube, so you can go back and check it. It's a great
Awesome.
story.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry I'm late, guys.
No worries.
Yeah, I'll share it this way if that's all right.
Sure.
Yeah, so we took all these assets and we brought them to life in static form, and also we did digital and social. I think they had probably 20 or 30 different sizes for each one of them. And then they also took over their landing page. So a few of these. So the first one is their landing page. Their second one is an ad, and then they use this in a few different ways, less copy and whatever. They used it, I think, at the trade show on a big jumbo screen, and then
And Ernie had some fun with some headlines.
yeah,
So we have
yeah.
multiple headlines for each visual. This client got so much for their money.
I'm gonna say this is robust.
It's
Oh
unbelievable
yeah.
how many assets they got.
Yeah. So these two are their landing pages again, and then the 3 spots, and then the radio pieces, and then all of these. So another thing I did was I took these into After Effects. I didn't put the motion to it because I didn't have a full 10 or 15 second clip or whatever, but
Great for social media.
Yeah.
That works really well.
yeah, so I put those together as well, sent them all to the client. The client's using those right now. I keep seeing them in my feed. But they're
Very
just
nice.
a fun way to bring it to life. The music was AI too. So yeah, it was kind of all AI, soup to nuts.
Was the VO 11 labs?
What's that?
Was the VO 11 labs?
No,
No.
no. It,
You're
no.
not you're not going to tell me what it was. What
It was an AI one.
Yeah, no, AI. I was just saying, was it a piece of?
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody seems to like 11. I'm just poking around trying to.
Oh
figure
yeah.
out, you know, what's best.
I don't know who they are. It was
Yeah.
a different one that
Okay.
I can't name on a recording.
We gotta have a repository somewhere where everybody can post all the ones they like, because there's so many.
Oh yeah. It's
good
funny
idea.
too, like for some reason I ended up, I don't know if British people are just funnier, but it sounded funnier. It sounded like they could just get the enunciation right, the pausing right. I was between two, a male and female voice, and ultimately the male voice timed better, and that's kind of what I couldn't really decide, but it timed better. So I think it just took it might have taken 36 seconds for what the man said in 30, and it felt natural. But yeah, it was a fun project. I mean, it's certainly one that wouldn't have been able to come to life without using AI.
And for me, I'm so proud of this campaign because number one, it took advantage of the Ideasicle X process. The client got a 24 different ideas, campaign ideas to choose from. We landed on one, and then when moved right into IX Freestyle, where Ernie and Rich took it from there and did the execution using AI. I mean, the world is changing so quickly. The distance from idea to execution is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's really good for us because now we're producing stuff.
Yeah. It just seems like at this stage to do something, you still need you still need both sides. You need traditional means as well as the AI. You need to be able to use traditional applications to straighten things out, that aren't perfect or whatever, and then you just need to kind of be nimble. And the clients were terrific about that, because we just kept saying to them, this is the first time we've ever done this. We've worked in AI, but we haven't really generated and built something with this. So I think because we just involved them in the process and had open conversations with them and told them, here's where we're hitting a roadblock or whatever. And so here's what I think we need to do to fix things. I think that they were terrific at working with us through that. And then also I worked with a producer on this, and he helped immensely. He helped, first off, connecting us with Atomic 14, who's the company that helped animate things and retouch, and help bring these things to life. And then we had an editor and everything else. So.
Well, Rich, I think we got to leave it there. Thank
Okay.
you so much for doing this. This was really enlightening, and it was really fun to watch you at the helm on this as the account guy on this. It was so much fun. So thank you, and thanks everybody for joining. If you have any ideas for future learning sessions, let me know.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.